Do have a quorum of 4. You all were given the minutes late on Thursday. Thank you for doing that, by the way.
Yeah,
Couple more
we
days
got it
to
as quick
review
as we
those.
could.
I appreciate that. All had a chance to review those minutes. I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
So a motion to approve, a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? None. Minutes approved. Alright. And now for some newer business. And Julie, I'm seeing the Greenemeyer edition is our first.
Yes.
Okay. And this is for a request for a preliminary plat of the Greenemeyer addition. I'll let the staff talk about this, and then we'll move on.
Yep. And before we get started, I did want to introduce Bethany Falvey. She is our new city planner. And so you'll start seeing her after this month. I didn't give her any of these cases because we were already into them before she started. So you will start seeing her at the next meeting with stuff, and we're happy to have her. She came to us from the Kansas State Historic Preservation Office. So has a lot of great experience and expertise for things we are dealing with.
Well, yeah, we'll put that
Yes.
to use here.
Yes,
You bet.
absolutely.
Welcome.
Yeah,
Welcome.
welcome, it's great to have
Yeah,
you.
much needed. And community, thank you as well for being here. Julie?
Okay, so the first two items are the preliminary and final plat for the Greenemeyer edition. I'm gonna go ahead and talk about these separately. They do require 2 separate votes, but it's the same project, so we'll just go together. So, the subject property is at 2101 and 2013 Vilas, along Vilas Street, just west of 20th Street. And as you'll remember, a couple of months ago, actually it was in August, we looked at a rezoning for this property from R125 to R19. It is kinda right there in the middle of that open area. At that point, the planning commission had voted to recommend denial of the rezoning, and so these 2 plats had been on that agenda. Since the planning commission voted to recommend denial to the city commission, we went ahead and tabled these until after the time that the city commission heard the rezoning. The city commission did hear the rezoning and ultimately voted to approve it. And just to let you all know, if you weren't aware, part of their reasoning was the city has received a state grant to completely reconstruct and improve Vilas Street. I know some of the concerns with this particular project were the traffic on Vilas Street, and so that is slated to, I believe, design should be happening next year. I'm not sure exactly when construction will take place, but the city has received that grant to completely redo Vilas. It'll get widened, curbs and gutters, all of that.
And storm sewers?
Yes, that'll be part of any new street project.
Welcome news by the
Yep,
community.
so that's just kind of a little background on how that rezoning went and ultimately got approved by the city commission. So the preliminary and final plat, these are for 6 lots. They are all 3/4 of an acre in size. The development review committee did review this back in May, had a few items related to dedication of right-of-way, utilities, sidewalks, and stormwater. All of those items have been addressed or will be addressed at the time of construction on these properties. So we have no outstanding concerns with this. This is the preliminary plat. The final plat looks exactly the same, it's just those 6 lots. Again, they're all 3/4 of an acre in size. And if you have any questions for me, I can answer those, and Mr. Greenemeyer is here as well if you have any questions for him.
Commissioners, any questions of Julie?
I have a few. So the recommendations or the what's printed out from Public Works is very helpful. So the right-of-way and the sanitary sewer, is that, so these are recommendations. Does that have to be part of what we vote for, or?
Nope, so you're just voting on the plat,
Okay.
the required right-of-way is being dedicated with it. So again, anything has been addressed, or would be addressed at the time of construction.
Okay.
I have a question. Is there setbacks is there building setbacks on each one of these lots?
Yep, so the required setback for this zoning district in the front is 25 feet,
Uh-huh.
and,
But nothing on side lots?
yep, it's 6 feet on the side, and you can see in
So there's
here.
to be
Yeah,
12 feet,
it's
12
in
feet,
there.
12
Yep.
feet between houses?
Yeah, that's the required minimum for the zoning district, and with a lot of this size, it's unlikely that any house would be that close to the property line anyway.
Okay.
These lots are all 110 feet wide, so.
Unless you want a 90-foot front ranch house all on one level.
Yeah, so, and as with
I'm
any
kidding.
single family, it'd be, or they'd have to meet these are the standard setbacks.
Okay.
Bill, no questions? I have no questions. Anyone from the community wish to speak on this?
I would like to
Hang
ask,
hang on just a second, so we're gonna open the public now, and so.
It's
if-
not a public hearing.
It's not, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
plats are
sorry,
not public hearings.
I'm sorry,
Nope, you're fine. You're certainly welcome to take comments or
Sure.
questions from the public, but it doesn't require a
Alright.
public
She
hearing.
wanted to,
Understood, go ahead.
go ahead.
I'd like to know.
We'll need you to come up to the microphone
Okay.
and state your name and address for the record.
My name's Alma Hegmaster. I live at 2817 Home Place, right at the extreme east end of Limit. And what I would like to know is, right now, I have a view in the winter of the river.
This is not that plat.
Yeah.
That's
ma'am.
not that.
This
That's
is
not
a-
it?
No, this is a
No.
different item.
What plat is this one?
This is for 20th and Vilas.
Okay, because I kept thinking, where's Violet's running? Okay,
Yeah.
okay, so,
Yep, so the one you're talking about is a few items down.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Hey, but thanks.
And it can be a little confusing.
And they're both
Limit runs
submitted by
all the way
Mr.
across,
Grimoire too,
so
so.
Okay.
I totally
Yeah.
understand.
Violence does in some places.
All right. Again, are there any questions on this? All right, so gentlemen, we have actions and options. We can approve the preliminary plat, we can deny the preliminary plat, we can table the issue for additional information consideration.
Well, with the comment about the storm sewers and the curbs and gutters and that, I would, and the setbacks and, side sets, I would make a motion to approve the plat as presented based on the grant. Can I do that?
No, the grant has nothing to do with the plat, so it would
Okay.
just be a motion to approve
Just
the plat.
Okay. Approve, I will approve it.
All right, so we have a motion to approve, is there a second?
Second?
There's a second. All in favor of approving the preliminary plat?
Aye.
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 4 ayes, no objections. And Julie, if I'm correct, request a final plat for Greenemeyer Edition, the second part of this.
Yep, so for the final plat. And it'd be the same, options for a motion.
Gentlemen, any questions? You don't need to rehear any of this, do you?
I'll make a motion to approve the final plat.
All right, there's a motion to approve.
Seconded?
Second. All in favor of approving the final plat?
Aye.
Aye.
And aye, 4 ayes.
Okay, and just, kind of a FYI, the final plat will go to the city commission to accept that right of way, that additional right of way that's being dedicated, that has to go to city commission.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Third item on the agenda is a request to rezone the property located at 2700 State Street from RMF, multifamily residential district, to RMX residential mixed use district. Julie?
Okay, as you said, this is a request to rezone this property from RMF, residential multifamily, to RMX, which is residential mixed-use district. This is the vacant 4-acre lot just to the north of the Guidance Center. The Guidance Center is intending to purchase this property, and the intent is to allow for future expansion of the Guidance Center's behavioral health services and to provide space for expansion of partnerships with other health providers in the community. They also are in discussions with the Leavenworth Attainable Housing Group for the potential construction of some multifamily housing units on this property to provide transitional housing to underserved persons in the community as they transition them into better housing options. So in talking through their plans for this property, mainly what they're looking at doing are the same types of activities they're currently doing at the existing Guidance Center building, with just that addition of some potential for multifamily housing there as well. And so really the best zoning for a property that could allow all of those uses is the RMX, the residential mixed use, that allows for office uses, medical office uses, and that multifamily housing, which would cover all of the potential uses that they are looking at having here. So the Guidance Center property is zoned, I believe, let's see, I think it's Office Business District. Yes, Office Business District. To the north of this property is another multifamily housing development, so kind of a good blend between those two uses. So we'll just go through the conditions of determination that are required for rezoning. The first is the character of the neighborhood. Again, the property is an approximately 4-acre vacant piece of land. It's located north of Lemont Street and 1 block west of 4th Street. There's a variety of uses in close proximity, including medical office, multifamily, single family, and commercial. The next is the zoning and uses of properties nearby. Again, the property to the south is occupied by the Guidance Center and is zoned OBD, Office Business District. Properties to the east, north, and west are zoned RMF, residential multifamily, and are occupied by an apartment building to the north, some apartment buildings or multifamily to the west, and then single family homes to the east across State Street. The next is the suitability of the subject property for the uses to which it's been restricted. The property is vacant and has always been available for sale in development for approximately the last 20 years. In that time, we've had no development proposals for multifamily housing development on the property as it is currently zoned. The next is the extent to which removal of the restrictions will detrimentally affect nearby properties. The proposed rezoning should have little detrimental effect on surrounding properties. The property is currently zoned to allow for development of multifamily housing, which again will also be allowed in the RMX district. The RMX zoning district would also allow again for the development of some office or commercial uses, which do already exist in close proximity and will not alter the overall character of the neighborhood. The next is the length of time the subject property has remained vacant as zoned. The property has always been vacant. The next is the relative gain to economic development, public health, safety, and welfare by the reduction of the value of the landowner's property as compared to the hardship imposed by such reduction upon the individual landowner. The proposed rezoning will have a positive effect on the economic development of the city and region by allowing for the development of a long vacant piece of property. And it also will provide the opportunity for the expansion of vital services to the residents of Leavenworth, improving the public health of the community. The next is staff recommendation. Staff does recommend approval of the rezoning request. The next is the conformance of the requested change to the adopted or recognized comprehensive land use plan being utilized by the city. I'll get that turned on. The area is identified as appropriate for multifamily uses on the future land use map. Again, multifamily uses are allowed in the RMX zoning district, in addition to some limited commercial and office uses. So staff would find that the proposed use is in conformance with the overall goals of the comprehensive plan. And the final is any other factors that may be relevant to a particular proposed amendment. There are no other factors that we would note. So if you have any questions for me, I can answer those for you. Keith Rickard from the Guidance Center is here as well, if you have any questions for their specific plans for the property. And then also just to know, after we sent out the required public notices to properties within 200 feet, we did receive one call from a notified property owner indicating that they do not want to see their property taxes raised and do not want the development to bring more homeless persons to the area. And that was the only comment we received.
Is that person in this room by chance? Okay. Gentlemen, any questions of Julie and the staff on what she's laid out and noting their recommendation?
None for me.
None for me.
Yeah, I gotta say, a vacant lot for 20 years. And that's just what we've counted, right?
Yeah, that's how long I believe it's been for sale. We looked back on the aerials, our aerials go back to like the 1940s, and it's always been vacant. There's never been anything there as far as we have record of.
Okay, understood. Right. So what, open the public hearing?
Yep, and you can
Right.
ask to hear from Mr. Rickard with the Guidance Center.
All right, so Mr. Rickard, if you'd like to step up, tell us your name and your address, your title, and then we'll listen to your conversation.
Sure. I'm Keith Rickard. 500 Limit Street is the office address. I'm the Executive Director of the Guidance Center and have been since 1990. We moved into our present location in 2004. Cause Construction built that for us at a price of $4.2 million. So we have improved that corner already, and that would be our intent for the longer-term future. We don't have any immediate plans. I have some thoughts and some ideas and some potential partners that we've discussed, but we don't have anything concrete at this point, and we certainly don't have financing yet. But in 2002, when we purchased the property, we were interested in that property at the same time, and then I think it was $650,000 to purchase that property, and now it's $80,000. And so the price is right for us to snatch it up for our long-term growth and development, which is significant. We are in the process of transitioning from a community mental health center into a certified community behavioral health clinic, which is a federal designation, and we just received a $4 million grant from SAMHSA to help develop that process, which expands the breadth of our services as well as the quality of our services, allowing us to hire more staff, to make services more accessible, and to improve the overall outcome for our clients. So in the future, as we add more staff, we need more space to do so. We've already maxed out our office space at our present location, and so when we look for growth, obviously that's the logical place for that to occur for us. So we would be looking at least developing a behavioral health clinic. The conversations that we've had with the Leavenworth housing group, I can't think of their name right this second, Julie mentioned it a while ago.
Yeah, the Leavenworth Attainable Housing.
Yes, so we've talked with them, and they had their eyes on the property, and I communicated with them about a potential partnership, because we think some of the facilities and programs that they would offer to homeless persons, rehousing persons, would work well for our population as well, and they could just move and be right there for their health care, behavioral health care, all in one location. They've postponed any plans for that kind of big expansion for the present time, and are expanding in a smaller way somewhere else in the community. But we want to keep that door and that partnership, potential partnership, open. Some of the land I know is sitting in the flood zone. The very back west portion is, and so we'd have to move everything, to the east. I think we could have a parking lot in the flood zone, perhaps, and that might make some logical sense. But that's in the longer term future for us, and may not even come to fruition. But I feel fairly confident in the next 5 years we'll be building another medical style clinic with a similar facade to the one that we have presently. So that's a brief overview of where we're at and what we're looking to do.
So are you just gonna leave the property as it is until you're ready to develop it, or are you going to clean it up, or?
Yes, I contacted the owners, and they did come and mow it and baled what they have there, but they left the bales. In our agreement, they say they'll remove the bales, and I've already contracted with Joey's Lawn Care to beautify the property now, keep it mowed low for the season. So
Cool.
it'll look better than it has in 2018.
If, to address the citizens' concern of the, what would be offered and what the clientele would be to come there, is there a, requirement for, a special use permit or anything? If somebody is gonna build a residential, treatment facility or a transitional care facility or whatever, something that is put together by an actual company, is there additional zoning that has to happen for that to occur?
No, the, multifamily housing is just multifamily housing regardless of, who they're serving, and so that would be an allowed use in the RMX zoning district. And it would be allowed in RMF, which is currently zoned as well,
Okay.
at any rate.
So basically, we're just doing this to get them, so they have the office space and the,
Yep, so the RMX would, so again, they could do any
Medical.
sort of multifamily, serving any population, and then the RMX would just allow the addition of those, medical office uses as well.
The street-facing property is where our facility would be. Anything for residential would be to the west.
in the floodplain, huh? Yeah.
Their parking lot.
That's right.
Bill, you have any questions?
Nope.
So I wanna thank you for your work in this community. It's noticed, and what you're doing with that program. Impressive, so thank you, and thank you for laying this out, and congratulations on your $4 million grant.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
Well done.
Appreciate it. I would like to introduce someone to you, though. This is Dr. Adam Buman-Wiggs. He is our current clinical director. He's an Atchison resident. He's a clinical psychologist. And he came to us last January, and he is my replacement. I'll be retiring in March, and he's been shadowing me for a year now, or about a year. So he'll step into my seat probably when this building gets built, as you'll be hearing from him if there are.
Congratulations to both of you.
Yeah, I'm excited, it's good to meet all of you.
All right.
You as well. All right, thank you. If there's no one else to speak on it, this closes the public hearing portion of this. Commissioners, any last discussions up here?
None for me.
None for me.
All right. Got your options: recommend approval, recommend denial of the rezoning request, or table the issue for additional information consideration. Take a motion.
I moved it, go ahead.
Go ahead. No. Future.
Okay,
You
I
have to do
recommend
it.
that the rezoning request be approved.
I'll second.
All right. You have a recommendation and a second. All in favor of recommend approval for the rezoning request?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 4 ayes. No objections. Thank you.
Yeah, no, go to city commission, we'll get with you tomorrow about what date that's gonna be. Alright, thanks. Yeah, you can wait till that.
Gentlemen, thank you. Have a good night. Item number 4, request to rezone property located at 28 Limit and 2 Vilas.
Oh, I think, no, the
Maple
one above
Street.
it, 212, 220, 224 Maple.
I'm sorry. Aye. Okay. I'm sorry about that. All right, so, yep. Item number 4. Consider preliminary plat for Riverview Estates, case number 2022-32 SUB.
Go.
No, no.
Case number 22-28 RAZ.
Okay. All right.
Number 2 under new business.
I'm well off, aren't I?
Here you are. Right here.
Gotcha, all right,
Right there.
got it, all right, all right.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, it is.
You're trying
That's
to
when
move
you're
us.
Well,
gone,
yeah, I'm
That's
following,
right.
I'm following stuff over left.
It's all fine, just
No, we're
keep
good,
it.
all right,
when
so.
you're gone for a month, you know,
212, 220 and 224 Maple Street. The applicant owner is requesting a rezoning of the properties located at 212, 220, and 224 Maple Street from R16, that's high-density, single-family residential district, to I1, to L1 light industrial district. Julie.
Okay, so again, the applicant is requesting rezoning of their property located at 212, 220, and 224 Maple Street from R16, high-density, single-family, to I1, light industrial district. Property is owned by Geiger Ready Mix and is currently being developed as additional parking area for employees and their equipment. The property consists of 3 vacant lots that are directly adjacent to the lot that's currently being used for Geiger's for some parking of their equipment. The property is to the east of Stubby Park and has been vacant for at least the last 25 years and looking back through our aerial photos. The 2 lots that are addressed as 220 and 224 Maple were they're the 2 skinnier lots right off of 3rd Street. Those were previously owned by the city and were transferred to Geiger in 2021 for the express purpose of providing land for additional parking for their business. Plans for the expanded parking lot were reviewed and approved by city staff, and it was during that review and approval process that we discovered, oh, the zoning is actually single-family residential and not light industrial, which it needs to be for an industrial use. So this rezoning request will bring the site to compliance with the existing regulations for the use of the property that it's being used for. All other property that's owned and occupied by Geiger in the vicinity here, as you're aware, they own quite a bit here, is all zoned I1 light industrial. So just to go through the conditions of determination that are required for any rezoning request. Character of the neighborhood. The subject property consists again of 3 vacant lots. To the east is the existing Geiger Ready Mix business. To the north are single-family homes. To the west is Stubby Park, and to the south is the American Legion building. The neighborhood contains an existing mix of uses, which will not be altered by the rezoning request. The next is the zoning and use of properties nearby. Turn on the zoning layer here. Property to the east is zoned I1 and is occupied by Geiger Ready Mix. Property to the south is zoned R16 and is occupied by the American Legion. To the west is also zoned R16 and is occupied by Stubby Park. And the properties to the north are zoned R16 and are occupied by single-family residences. The next is the suitability of the subject property for the uses to which it's been restricted. The subject property is vacant and has been available for sale and development for a minimum of 25 years. In that time, no other development proposals have been presented. And I would just note that the city had talked about potentially using those 2 lots owned by the city for potential parking for Stubby Park. It was determined at some point that that was not needed, and so talks with Geiger transpired and that transaction was made. The next is the extent to which removal of the restrictions will detrimentally affect nearby property. The proposed rezoning should have little detrimental effect upon surrounding properties. The planned parking area will serve the existing Geiger Ready Mix business and will alleviate parking congestion without introducing an increase in industrial traffic or altering the nature of the neighborhood. The next is the length of time the subject property has remained vacant as zoned. Again, the subject property has been vacant for a minimum of 25 years. The next is the relative gain to economic development, public health, safety, and welfare by the reduction of the value of the landowner's property as compared to the hardship imposed by such reduction upon the individual landowner. The proposed rezoning will have a positive effect on the safety of the neighborhood by alleviating parking congestion on other portions of the Geiger Ready Mix business. The next is the recommendation of permanent or professional staff. Staff does recommend approval of the rezoning request. The next is the conformance of the requested change to the adopted or recognized comprehensive land use plan. The area is identified as appropriate for single-family uses on the future land use map. However, the adjoining parcel, which is also owned by Geiger Ready Mix and utilized for parking of equipment, is also identified as appropriate for single-family uses. The proposed parking area allows for the continued sustainability of an existing business in the Leavenworth community, which does meet other goals of the comprehensive plan and functions as an extension of the existing location. So therefore, based on it meeting other goals of the comprehensive plan, staff would find that the proposed use is in conformance with the overall goals of the adopted comprehensive plan. And then the final is any other factors that may be relevant to a particular proposed amendment. There are no other factors of note. If you have any questions for me, I can answer those, and we do have a representative from Geiger here as well who could answer questions for you.
Commissioners, any questions of Julie?
So does it need, since they're gonna use it for parking for, since they're, for their trucks and their equipment and, employees, does it need to go to light industrial zoning?
Yes, since it's parking for an industrial use, that's why it needs to be rezoned to
Okay.
industrial.
I have a question, Julie, I don't know if it's for you or not, but, and maybe it's out of our purview, but do we have any idea how the site would be accessed by heavy equipment?
I don't have a copy of the parking lot plan with me, but, you can ask the representative from Geiger. It is already, I think it's almost completely done at this point, the parking lot. Again, we kind of figured out after the fact that the zoning wasn't correct, after that transfer had been made by the city to Geiger.
Okay,
I'm Brian Schwinn, I'm plant manager at Leavenworth. We would access off of Maple Street, not the alley. The lot there that is 224, we did agree to make that citizen parking for Stubby Park for wintertime. when
That
those
was
kids-
a question I was just gonna
Yeah,
ask you, if you
it's,
answered it, thank you.
that's the plan for that
sledding.
lot right there. Now, we'll use it during the day for our employees parking, but in off hours, it'd be available for the city.
And since there's
If
no,
it's snowing, we're probably not gonna be working.
that's right, and that'll be safer for the kids too. Good question.
thank you.
Any other questions of Julie? It is open to the public. Is there anyone from the community that would like to speak on this right now? If so, come up. No one? Thank you. You have anything else to add? Do you have it?
I don't believe so, thank you.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thanks.
All right, that closes the public hearing. Any final comments up here?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Your actions and options: recommend approval of the rezoning, recommend denial of the rezoning request, or table the issue for additional information. Take a motion.
I move to recommend approval of the rezoning request.
Is there a second?
Seconded?
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Thank you for that.
Sweet.
Now, item number 3 of new business.
Sure.
Conduct a public hearing for case number 2022-29 RAZ. It's 28 Limit Street and 2 Violet Street. The applicant owner is requesting a rezoning of the properties located at 28 Limit Street and 2 Violet Street from R19, it's medium-density, single-family residential, to PUD, it's planned unit development. Julie?
Okay, these last 3 items, this rezoning and then the preliminary plat and final plat are all one project, so they will require 3 separate votes, but we'll just talk about them all together, just to alleviate any confusion. So, again, this is a request to rezone the property located at 28 Limit and 2 Violet Street from R19, medium density, single family residential, to PUD, planned unit development. Let me get, let's see. Okay. So the property is owned by Grainemeyer Rentals, and they are being requested, the majority of this development, the Riverview development here in the gray, is zoned PUD. The portion that's being rezoned, it's a little bit confusing, so we're gonna try and do our best. This shaded part is the only part that is not zoned PUD. We would not now allow for properties to have multiple zonings present on them. Sometimes things happened in the past, they didn't quite line up, for whatever reason, so this is really being requested in order to clean it up and allow for future planning purposes for this property. So again, it's just this gray shaded area that's being requested to rezone to PUD to align with what is already out there. So the gray is what's already there, and I'm not sure, these lines were previously platted lots, those do not exist anymore. So I
it's like-
apologize for that, I'm gonna turn off the zoning. These red lines are the way the lots are existing,
Okay.
so.
Okay.
So as with any PUD proposal, the only allowed use and development pattern for the property is what's being proposed. So that means the accompanying preliminary plat that's serving as the development plan for the property, that's how it will need to be developed going forward. Any change in that lot layout, moving forward would require them to come back for another public hearing to amend the PUD. So, let me bring up, I've got a few exhibits here, so. When you're looking at the preliminary plat, it shows, lot 1, lot 2A, lot 2B, 2C, 2D, tract 2A, and then lot 3 and 4 out closer to home place. When you look at the final plat that they've submitted, it's only showing lot 1, lot 2. Lot 2 is not split up into those A, B, C, D, and the tract, it's just one large lot 2, and then lot 3 and 4. And so, just to give you a little bit of an idea, these lots, lot 2s, the multiple lot 2s, the A, B, C, and D, that would be future development. So again, as it's shown on the preliminary plat, that's what they intend to do. That is not part of the final plat that they would be recording at this time. They would come back through in the future when they're ready to sell off those lots and have a final plat approved, come through the planning commission for this specific lot pattern that they're showing here. Again, if any final plat they bring forward in the future for this phase 2 does not match the preliminary plat, they would have to come back through a public hearing for rezoning to amend the PUD. Also part of the plat, let me get back to the map. This is some right-of-way here coming through. There is no actual road in it. There's sort of a little gravel driveway in there. That's Vilas Street right-of-way that has never been developed with a road. The plat will vacate that right-of-way, and that vacated right-of-way will be included in the plat to allow for that more cohesive lot development, get rid of that unused right-of-way. It's not cutting off any lots, it's not making anything inaccessible, just kind of cleaning up what's out there. So, we'll go through the conditions of determination for the rezoning. The first is the character of the neighborhood. The subject property is surrounded by single-family residential development. To the east is the Union Pacific Railroad property and Missouri River. And then to the south is the VA campus and City Dog Park. The next is the zoning of nearby property. Zoning back up. The immediately surrounding properties to the north and west are zoned R19, that's the green. The VA campus to the south is, it does not have an assigned zoning district, the city does not have any jurisdiction over that property.
Federal property, yes.
What's that?
It's a federal property.
Yeah, so we have no zoning on that, and then to the east, again, is the Union Pacific Railroad and the river, so there's no city zoning assigned to that either. The next is the suitability of the subject property for uses to which it's been restricted. The property that's being rezoned is again, currently zoned R19, medium density, single family residential district. 2, Viola Street is not accessible by any developed roadway. And the majority of the lot addressed as 28 Limit Street is zoned PUD, planned unit development. The existing lot pattern and vacant right of way is prohibitive for single family development in the area. Let me get in here if we can. Yeah, so here's the addresses. This larger lot here is 28, and then this lot up here is 2 Violas, and again, it's got right of way to it, but no developed road, so it's really inaccessible. Okay, the next is the extent to which removal of the restrictions will detrimentally affect nearby property. The proposed rezoning should not have a detrimental effect on nearby property. The proposed rezoning and accompanying plats are consistent with the development pattern and do not introduce any additional lots beyond what currently exist. Therefore, there will be no increase in traffic or service demands in the area. The next is the length of time the subject property has remained vacant as zoned. Subject property has always been vacant, and the portion of Viola Street right-of-way to be vacated with the accompanying plat has never been utilized or developed. The next is the relative gain to economic development, public health, safety, and welfare by the reduction of the value of the landowner's property as compared to the hardship imposed by such reduction upon the individual landowner. The proposed rezoning should have a neutral effect on economic development, public health, safety, and welfare, as the proposal simply, again, cleans up an area of inconsistent zoning and lot patterns that currently exist. The next is the recommendation of permanent or professional staff. Staff does recommend that the rezoning request be approved. The next is the conformance of the requested change to the adopted or recognized comprehensive land use plan being utilized by the city. And I'll get that turned on. The subject area is identified as appropriate for single-family residential uses, and the proposed rezoning is therefore in conformance with the adopted comprehensive land use plan. And then the final, any other such factors as may be relevant to a particular proposed amendment, and there are no other factors of note. So I know this is a little bit confusing. Mr. Greenmeyer is here, so he might be able to answer some questions better than I could. If you have any questions for me, I will do my best to answer them.
Questions of Julie first.
So there's a single family home right now on lot 1, right?
That's correct.
And-
Addressed as 16 Limit.
Okay, so I got confused on, are we gonna put in those next 3 lots along there? Or is that just,
No, so the additional lots would be coming kind of to the west and north of that existing home lot. So this sort of big.
no, I'm talking about 2A, 2B, 2C, those are gonna be the new lots?
Yes,
And for single family, or?
yes, yeah,
Okay.
it's single family.
Okay,
The, that house that's there, will that be an anchor for the PUD? Will that be incorporated into it?
yeah.
Yes, so it's already zoned PUD. Let me get the zoning back
It
on
won't
here.
change.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's all zoned PUD. There's 2 houses there. The southeasternmost house is not part of this plat. It is already zoned PUD. It's already platted, it's just not part of this, owner's property, so therefore it's not included. Yeah, so that lot will stay the same. This house, I believe the address, what did I say, 16
Right
Lemon
there,
Street. That lot, basic pattern will stay the same, and then the additional lots are kind of up into this open area. Kind of that same large lot, single family pattern that exists.
Were there any, when the notifications went out, were there any citizen?
We had one call confirming that multifamily development would not be allowed. We confirmed that this is, again, just for single family in this specific lot pattern that's being proposed. And then we did have another call, and I believe, she is here, who lives in one of the homes along Home Place,
Okay,
that has some concerns about homes being built between hers and the Missouri River. I'm not sure exactly what her concerns were, but she is here.
Once
What-
we open that up to the public, we'll listen to her. Once we open that up to the public, we'll listen to her.
Okay. Tell me about track 2A. That's a big chunk that's above. So that's, so if they want to make that into more lots, excuse me, they have to
So-
come back in?
This tract, and Mr. Greenemeyer can confirm this, it's basically undevelopable because of the terrain. It's very steep, and could not really be developed.
I was looking at the topography map, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so, I mean, you can see the contours on here as they are. Again, Mr. Greenemeyer can speak to that a little bit, but the way the terrain is, it'd be very difficult to put something there.
I'll bring him up here if you guys have any more questions for Julie. You have any questions for Julie? No. Mr. Greenemeyer, would you come on up and just walk us through this, give us a little more information, and if we have any questions, we'll certainly
Yeah,
ask
Jeremy Greenemeyer Reynolds, 2500 South Second Street. And I understand this is confusing, and it took us a second to get through a lot of this as well. And it came up, I don't know, 6 months, a year ago, when the house at 16 Lemon Street is where my dad lives. He was just looking at, we're just doing some kind of family planning type stuff, you know, going over some paperwork, and he was just kind of trying to figure out what happens when and if he and my stepmom ever decide to relocate from this house, which got us thinking about best ways to proceed with the development of that, which got us thinking about any of the adjacent properties that we have as well, which is how you end up with some of these lots that aren't in the same zoning that they're in, and even the couple lots that are up on Home Place, which we also own. So we thought instead of just doing this one at a time, we would just kind of take everything as a single proposal and come in here once. Because we haven't spent a whole lot of time talking about the plan for the 2 lots on off of Home Place. But is that a second consideration, or is that part of this one as well?
It's, the rezoning doesn't cover those 2 lots up there,
Okay,
but
we're just doing-
we're talking about it all, so you might as well go ahead and address it if you want me to pull up that plan.
I mean, we think of it as a single thing, even though.
Yes, it's all, yeah.
Yeah, so, once you take the existing house, the vacant land, the right-of-way, plus the 2 residential lots that are accessed from Home Place, you can kind of see where we got to wrapping all this up in a single request. If you were to see any development anytime soon, it would likely be on the two lots off of Home Place, just because they have the existing infrastructure in place. They're the kind of a more typical single-family lot size. The lots next to 16 Lemon Street, I can tell you my dad is not interested in having neighbors. This is just a way to readjust some lot lines and get the zoning straightened out for the future. We chose the size of lots we did just to be able to have to meet the minimum size for a similar size house. More than likely, 2A and 2B or 2B and 2C will be purchased by the same person. Or that would be a potential, I guess. The tract A that I think someone asked about is very hilly, and I don't know what the value on that is. We redrew the lines to orient as many of these lots towards the river as we could. We feel like that's really the value in these places. The tract 2A likely is just going to be responsibility, kind of a HOA responsibility. We don't have an HOA for these lots yet, but we kind of envision there being one to take care of that vacant space in the future. But like I said, barring someone winning the lottery tonight, they're probably not going anywhere for a long time. So I could take any questions.
Jeremy, can you tell me,
Hang
Well,
on, yeah, hang on.
we'll just-
Yeah, we'll bring you up in just a second. So do we have any questions, Mr. Greenmeyer? Do you know the grade, the footage from the top of that to the bottom where you're going to want to build?
Julie, could you probably put on the contours.
Topography map.
Are you talking about just on our property or from like?
No, like as you're looking future to develop that down lower.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, is it 50, is it 60 feet all the way up to the, through the hill? I know it's a steep
Are
step.
you talking about on this tract 2A,
Which track are you talking about?
or were you?
From, let's say from the homes on top
From up here?
to the bottom.
That are along Home
Yes,
Place?
yes.
So, looks like they're around 900, and then the lowest point down here
Thanks for looking at that.
goes down to like 840, keeps going
60.
going down, so, yeah, it slopes off pretty steep back there.
Okay, all right, so in my mind I had 60, good, okay.
Yeah, so,
Any questions, Mr. Greenmeyer? Staff, that's a lot of work, thank you for putting that together.
yeah.
Now, if you've got nothing else,
I don't.
all right, we'll let you go and we'll open this up for public hearing. And in doing so, anyone from the crowd here can come up and speak on this. Just when you come up, give us your name, your address, please.
Okay, back again. Okay, I live right on the corner. There's like my home on Home Place, and then there's a road where Mr. Griedemeyer lives. Okay, what I would like to know is, I know it's really steep from behind where I live. I just want to know if there's going to be something that when they build, can they do like duplexes? You know, is there anything that can say what goes in there or what doesn't go in there? Is the zoning, I talked to Mike, and he said, really and truly, they're doing this because he's dividing everything up and trying to get it settled in the family. Well, I just want to know if there's no really a change, that nothing's going to really be major, that he felt like that some of the area was going to be really hard to put homes in. So I just want to know where I am, is there going to be anything that's going to be built that could be like a fourplex or is it going to be just like a medium density home that, you know, for just a single person? That's what I'm concerned about. I don't know what's going to go in that can, you know, affect our taxes. I don't know how that affects anything. And I just want some feedback.
Yep, so again, it's all single family is the only
Okay.
thing that would be allowed here.
Okay.
And the lots, I know they're a little bit hard to read because there's so much information on these plats, but the way these lots are laid out, that's the only thing they can do.
Okay.
Should this get approved, that's the only way it can develop, unless they came back for another public hearing, and then you would be notified. So
Okay.
just single family lots, the way you're seeing it here.
Right.
No duplexes or fourplexes or anything like that.
Okay,
And with the drop off that we were just talking about.
right,
Is there can't really build behind your lot so much because of the big
of the drop off.
Yeah, so
Since
it's.
you're up there in that corner by the private drive-in, what is it, can't remember the name of the street.
Yeah, there where limit goes,
Limit
so
place.
they're, right behind you, there's not gonna be
Yeah,
anything, it's the lots that they're looking at are back by Mike's house, closer towards the river,
Yeah.
not behind you.
so you'll still be up high, there won't, with this drop off of
Okay.
land behind you, I doubt if you'll be,
Okay, okay,
is that correct?
Yes,
Terry?
that,
Is
okay.
that correct?
As far as what?
The view won't be obstructed because of such a drop off behind her?
Well-
I mean, it's, I think as Mr. Burke said, it's.
60 feet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I was just trying to explain to her that,
yeah,
yeah, so,
60 feet, probably, I mean, and a couple hundred feet horizontal.
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So again, they would be back more in line with Mike's house, not
Right.
anywhere closer to you than that.
Right, okay, but you know, Mike's house sits up. I mean, he sits up, and that's what I was wanting to know, because from his house, there's the lot that goes, you know, the land that runs alongside him. I know he's not gonna want anything built there because of his property, you know, he wouldn't want somebody that close, and that's what I was concerned with, is there gonna be something later on, after he sells his house, and he's no longer there, somebody, you know, maybe he's not that concerned, and what worries me is, could they build something at that level, and it would affect the view? You're saying it couldn't?
It would be back in these lots next to his, so I mean, I can't speak to where a house might be put on those lots.
Okay.
But they would be back in line with that, those lots that are lined up next to his, back towards the river.
And that property that Mr. Greenemeyer lives on is not part of this property.
It is part of the plat, just
Yeah, it is.
because it's all single ownership and they're keeping it all in one.
That's his lot.
Let
Right there.
him, he's explaining this to her right now, giving her a visual.
They would have to sell.
Well, they just have to sell this lot. But if they had to come back in to build another house down here, they'd have to get it reapproved. 'Cause it's for- that will ask for one house and one house only.
Julie?
Okay, Julie, okay.
We're in a separate conversation over this, right?
That's good.
Yeah, that's what,
Yeah, and that one, that's not part of
Let's
this.
wait them out.
The what? The contours.
Yeah, so you guys can continue, they're kind of having a sidebar.
We're okay with this?
Yeah. It's not.
Yeah, so anyway, that's still on that question, because it's 60 plus feet, that's a drop off. If anything's been up there, it's literally, there's nothing can be done on that. What she's talking about up here would be to the south of what she's looking at. It would obstruct no view, even if they did something up there, it would be no obstruction to our view. But obstruction of a view is not going to stop us from, so.
The other thing is, if they change some, if they sold, bought this and sold off this part, they have to come back and.
Right. We can never predict the future, so, okay. So, ma'am, thank you. I appreciate
Did
your
you get your
concern
question?
for your property.
That's okay. I was just, I mean, you know, I'm by myself, and when I got the letter, it was really mature, I didn't, because we don't understand.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure,
So,
sure. Do you better understand now
Yes.
where you're at with
yes, I do.
relation to what he's looking to do in the future? All right, and I wish we had a crystal ball at these meetings, and we just don't, we don't know what they're gonna do 5, 10 years from now, but there will have to be future requests and future
I
meetings to
think
bring
what
this.
bothered me was that they rezoned it, and then I thought, is it gonna be not a family dwelling?
Sure, no,
And that's what concerned me.
no.
So,
Yeah, lots of people worry about the apartment complexes being put in their
Exactly.
backyard, so, and this one is not, so,
Okay.
good for you. All right. Any more questions from the community? Step up. Your name and your address.
Property here, 2801 Home Place. And I also was concerned about developing back here because it's a beautiful view. You can sit out on the back deck and it's like being in the country.
Ma'am, go ahead and, let me get your name real
Well,
quick,
I'm
okay?
sorry, Sue Thayer.
Yeah, but you can come up
Oh,
to
I'm
that.
sorry.
No, that's okay,
I
that's
was
okay.
gonna point at the map.
We'll bring you up here, okay?
Okay.
So your name and your?
My name is Sue Thayer and I live at 2801 Home Place.
Okay, thank you.
And it's a beautiful view. It's like living in the country, sitting on the back deck. And I too did not want it developed, especially multifamily things back there, because I have a pool and I didn't want kids all over the place.
Sure.
So I appreciate it. I've talked to Mr. Greenemeyer and listened to what Mo had to say, and I'm satisfied that everything's cool, so.
Thank you for your time.
Yep.
I appreciate you. With nothing else from there, that closes the public hearing. Gentlemen, any last conversations,
No, sir.
discussions? Okay,
None for me.
all right. Your options: recommend approval of the rezoning request, recommend denial of the rezoning request, or table the issue for additional information consideration. I'll take a motion.
And we're on the
The rezone.
The rezone.
the rezone.
Yes.
Yeah, I moved to approve, or recommend approve rezoning of 28 Lemon Street and 2 Violet Street.
There's a motion to recommend approval. Is there a second?
Seconded.
There is a second. All in favor of recommending approval of the rezoning request from R19 to PUD to the city commission? In favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All ayes, no opposed. All right. Let's go that one. And then we'll go right into the considered preliminary plat for Riverview Estates, case number 2022-32 SUV. Staff, nothing more to say?
Yeah, no additions.
Commissioners, any conversation? You need anything else from Mr. Greenmeyer?
And just help me, what are we looking at now? So we approved the rezoning, what
Yep.
is this doing here?
So this is the preliminary plat, which basically, since it's a PUD, this basically functions as their development plan. So again,
Okay.
the preliminary plat looks a little bit different from the final plat, so here's the preliminary again, it has lot 1, lot 2A, B, C, D, tract A, and then lots 3 and 4, and then the final is just that lot 1 as it exists right now, where Jeremy's dad lives. Lot 2 is all of everything that was shown on there, just having it be one lot, and then the lot 3 and 4 up there off of Home Place. So this is all they're going to record at the Register of Deeds right now, and then in the future, if they're ready to split up this lot 2, it's gonna have to match that preliminary plat that you're voting on right now. If it does not, they would have to come back and do another public hearing to amend the PUD.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything further? All right. You have the option to approve the preliminary plat, deny the preliminary plat, or table the issue for additional information. I'll take a motion.
I've made too many motions, I think.
There's only 4 of us.
Yeah, we have more items than there are
Yep,
commissioners.
there's only
So-
4 of us.
Okay, I'll go first this time. I recommend that we approve. This is the final plat? we're
The
approving?
No, this is the preliminary, yep.
Preliminary
Yep.
plat, yes.
Okay, so I have a motion to approve the preliminary plat. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
I have a second. All in favor of approving the preliminary plat? Say aye.
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 Very nicely done.
No opposed.
Preliminary plat.
Preliminary plat.
It's a little bit of a tongue twister.
Slow that
That's a real
It doesn't
public
seem like it
affairs.
should be,
Slow
because-
that down.
Oh, man, I couldn't do that.
All right. And now, the 2022-33 sub Riverview Estates final plat. Do you need any more from Julie?
No, no changes, nothing we haven't discussed.
Do we need any more from Mr. Greenemeyer? Nothing? All right, gentlemen, you have the option to approve the final plat, deny the final plat, table the issue for additional information consideration. I'll take a motion.
I move that we approve the final plat.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor of approving the final plat, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No opposed. All right, Julie, you have anything else for us?
Nothing else, and I do believe we have 1 or 2 things for December, so. Yeah.
Community, thank you for your time. Mr. Greenemeyer, always thank you for yours as well. All right. We'll adjourn this meeting.
All right, thank you.